and change management leader who currently serves as the special advisor on climate change and the circular economy to the governor of Lagos State. With over 2 decades of experience in senior management roles across direct sales, marketing, and business development, Titi has honed her project management expertise working in London and Lagos. From spearheading experiential projects in corporate environments to impactful public relations initiatives within the federal government, her exceptional skills were further recognized during her tenure as Senior Special Administrator to the Governor of Lagos State. Titi studied economics at Olabisi Onabanjo University and has expanded her knowledge through several prestigious courses at the Harvard Kennedy School. Titi holds full membership with the Society for Corporate Ethics and Compliance in the USA and the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Nigeria. She is the Deputy Vice Chairman of the Public Policy and Advocacy Committee in the Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. She actively participates in various board capacities and committees within the public and the private sectors. Mrs. Titi leads a fulfilling life as a mother of 2, supported by her loving husband and a strong community of Christian friends and mentors. Please let us welcome to the platform Mrs. Titi Oshodi.
Covenant Nation, the Platform Nation, it's such an honor and such a pleasure to be here. This is my very first, even though I'm an ardent follower, I passionately follow the platform, but I'm one of those virtual listeners and viewers. I'd like to seize the opportunity to express profound appreciation to Pastor Poju and Pastor Mrs. Oyemade as well. Over a decade of the platform, saddled with the objectivity of bringing shaping mindset, creating leaders, is no small feat. I really, really am humbled to be here, and I thank you so much, Pastor Poju, for giving us the opportunity to come and share, and also to be able to experience the realness that I have never felt before in a room. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you. And also to the Platform Nation as well, to the Platform Nation. I bring you greetings from my boss, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. Somebody that is very, very passionate, especially about the demographic, the majority of the demographic that I stand before here today. I know that we're coming and we're representing government, but there's so many things that we're going to be able to share. And this is my reason for standing before you. Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu has said to me, Titi, you make sure that you sell and that you share as much as possible. And that's what I'm going to do. I'd like to honor Mr. Kola Oyenayi that has come before, because that was an explosive session. And it has set the tone. I think the question is, where do we stand? So 2 varied components that we need to bridge today, this morning. Democracy and the free market. But I would say, and I'm going to take a different perspective, even though there will be some influx from what he has expended. There's no way that we can move away from that. And I would say that the interplay between free democracy or free market and democracy is settled within the space of sustainability. I stand and I operate in an industry that is for sustainability, for sustenance, for longevity. So a lot of what I'm going to be postulating this morning will be from that angle. So I'm defining Yeah, I'm defining the interplay between democracy and what does it mean, inclusivity, stakeholder management, essentially just ensuring that there's community engagement. And then we're talking about market dynamics, and we're saying, you have democratic processes, the forces between demand and supply that justifies people's preferences. But between both ends, we're saying what makes that sustainability, what makes the standard, what makes it bridge. And that's in how we can sustain the life that we live, how we can uphold, the values that are intrinsic for us to be able to live and to be able to progress as a nation. And here I said that sustainability is life, because if you look at the interplay, the interrelativity between government, between people, I'm sorry. The interplay between people, between the citizens and the businesses, then each component, each entity have a role that they have to play, isn't it? And it essentially means that government, as we have heard, establish regular frameworks, regulatory frameworks. What are the indices by which businesses should be operating? What are the tenets, that help the operationalization of businesses? And businesses in itself, how are they supposed to, push, the innovations and technologies and the ideas and the concepts that enable them to be able to run? And the stakeholders are the citizens. They are the ones that are receiving, they're on the receiving end, and they're the ones that are justifying the compatibility of the businesses and what is produced for them, and how government also enables, the components that help them to run. So here we are. We say that we want to have a stable economy, and all of these tripartite, indices have to be well in place. But where are we in Lagos? What's our status? And this is a little, overview of what is going on with Lagos State. If you look at the numbers, you would notice that a coastal city of a population of over 22 million as we speak right now, and we have about 65% of that population termed and classified as highly vulnerable because they are settled in informal places. They're not even recorded within the aggregate numbers of our population, of our data. And if we're talking infrastructure, we're talking assets, we're talking about a worth of 75 billion that is also classified as vulnerable, highly vulnerable. But then again, we also see that there is an issue with the sectors that climate change has impacted. And that's also the bane of our sustainability. Land, which is, where we get our source for food security. And so agriculture is a key aspect. And then tourism, both imbued by land. And if we're not able to start doing something about it, about our posterity, about our longevity, then the cost of inaction, as written by the Climate Action Plan, this is a report that has been delivered since 2020 to 2025, says that we're going to be losing an estimated of 22 to 25 billion for inaction, not taking the right decisions or doing something about climate change or about the effect of climate change. If you take a look at the slides, you would see here that I have just said a very gory, frightening story. But like Nigerians that we are, we're always looking out for the silver lining. And on the flip side, I have a report from Manufacturing Africa that says that there are enormous economic opportunities that are inherent in the situation that we have found ourselves. You will look at a cost, an estimate of about 2.7 billion by 2030, if we're looking at the opportunities that are inherent in the slides, in the sectors that I have expressed in there. And I'm not going to have enough time to be able to run through all of that, but I just want you to be able to take notes, because there are quite a number of slides like that that I will be running through. And the next slide is essentially also another one that talks about how they have aggregated pulled out seven key sectors, ranging from agriculture to solar to, running through to energy. And they have been stated with opportunities in green manufacturing. And those sectors also have the rationales why they are labeled as the go-to areas. And I'm saying this because it's important that from our office, the three pillars by which we drive is produce and help you see, help you to navigate where there's opportunities for job, where there's opportunity for market, where there's opportunity to access to wealth as well. So we have, that slide that talks about all of the areas into the next slide. And then we have another slide that actually gives you data around those brands and those organizations and the people that are already practicing in those areas. And what is, taken away, what is produced, what is achievable in those areas. Now, going through, let's go past that. Then we can begin to talk about what are the competences? What abilities do you need? How do you begin to position yourself to be relevant or to be able to operate in those places? The government is one that is heavily driven right now in the area of learning, and the STEM learning has become very, very instructive and very valuable in those areas. Just like digital transformation, you would find that the area of circular economy, the area of reproducing, recycling, waste management, has become a place that there's a lot of sectors that can easily play into it. But the fact is that we have a bit of a gap. People do not really understand what is potentially available in that space. So if we're going through, and talking about the learning through STEM, you would see that within that line, you can capture science, you can capture engineering, you can capture environmental studies, you can capture quite a number of competencies and skills that can be developed that can make you be able to operationalize, be able to work in those places. Where in that space now, we're beginning to help shape minds around how you can be, able to work in the areas that are alternative to the oil or to the areas or to banking. This is a new area that we're beginning to develop. We understand that global climate change is a global comms issue. Everybody is affected by it, whether we're urbanized or we're not urbanized. But we also understand that our approaches have to be differentiated. And so in our side of town, a basic or an average African or Nigerian, if you're beginning to shape minds and shape narratives and shape behavior, they want to know what is the benefit. They want to know what's in it for them. Because if you look at the pyramid and those who are at the bottom of that pyramid, the first language they want to hear is, how am I going to eat? What is Naira and Kobo? So when I'm talking climate change, I'm almost talking above their heads because it does not connect. And for them to be able to translate it to Naira and Kobo, then it has to be tangible. It has to be relatable. And this is where we begin to talk about incentivization. Because we understand that if we're able to manage the mindset and help people see that inherently sitting, on a daily activity, when you're generally or typically generating waste, you're actually sitting on resources. You're actually sitting on opportunities that can help you to scale or to grow or have you, give you access to a market. So our behavioral remodeling is starting essentially from driving conscious, sustainable practices, but by incentivizing in that process. And that's why in our office we have an initiative that is called EcoCirculate. EcoCirculate is an education-driven program that helps people to shape their minds in all ramifications, providing platforms that would help towards responsible, sustainable practices. Now, because it is government, what we want to do is start to recycle the various mandates that are seated within ministries. So what are the social amenities that are, accessible for the average citizen? Transportation, health, education. There are tools that are already existential right now. And, we're beginning to play around that. So every time we go to a community with the program of EcoCirculate, what we do is we drive engagement, education, using a tool like a card that is accessible with transportation, with education, with health. I'm not really saying that tool right now, but there is that tool that is already existent, and people can begin to use that tool to build points. So we're creating subsidies on that tool for people to have access to medical attention, have access to education, school fees, tuitions for their children, be able to get on the bus, the BRT lane, get onto the rail, essentially just establish and be able to live a good quality of life. That's one of the things that we're doing. And essentially what we're going to achieve with that is that we can reduce the cost of governance, but ultimately we can also reduce enforcement, as it were. But in all of this, another thing that I have taken from the former speaker is that any government that is thriving, or any society that is thriving, does not thrive on budget on government. It is the private sector, it is the enterprise that drives the wealth in a country. And this is where our corporates come in. This is where the tenets and the framework of the economic, the environment, the social, and the governance framework comes in, the EESG. Every company and every corporate has the ability to be obligated towards establishing impact towards the society through those pillars. As we speak, the corporate only perform at a 30% rate of their ESG framework. As a government, it is our duty right now to begin to look at that place, to remodel it, to reaffirm it, and to establish some form of connectivity and mandatory obligations to be driven from it. We're looking at that, and that's one of the things that we're going to be working with our corporates on. What are the roles of government? Right now, you can see on the slides, we have quite a number of plans that has been established in Lagos State, thankfully. The Lagos State Climate Action Plan, the Resilience Plan, we have a development plan, and these have become our frameworks and guides. We're working towards having a policy that will guide the space, but right about now, that gives us some form of direction as to how we're going to run our sustainable environment and green economy space. I can tell you that there are quite a number of initiatives, agreements, MOUs that are being tied in Lagos within that space. We have the LOMA and the Ministry of Environment that have signed a deal to commence the conversion of waste to energy at Epe. There's an energy plant that is coming up there. What it potentially provides for us in terms of numbers, 2,250 tons of waste that will be daily generated, that will also generate 60 to 70 megawatts of power, of electricity, that is worth to power between 60 to 70,000 homes, ability to save over 500,000 tons of carbon emission, and able to create 300 to 500 jobs during construction, and ultimately establish over 100 permanent jobs at the operational facility. That is imminent, and that's something that we're working, assiduously towards. We have deals and we have MOUs. Right about now, Lagos and Ghana has signed a deal to convert our landfill from a waste to energy operated facility. And of course, a lot of our markets, Ikorodu right now, has begun to have a properly advanced transfer loading program. So technology is taking a lot more of the space in terms of our operations, and we're earnestly trying to increase and replicate. But these are things that are from our end that we're opening up for business opportunities. We're opening up for the corporates, for the private sector to key into. We know also that in all of this, there's a gap in public awareness. There's a gap for us. There's a gap in the polity. Climate literacy is really, really very prevalent, and the absence of it is really, really very important. It's really significant for us to be able to achieve climate literacy. We want to be able to drive that through every level of PR and media platforms. If we're talking about the creative industry, can we start to generate narratives? Can we start to generate messaging? Messaging that will be driven through movies, through scripts, through dancing, through music, through the various passion points. Just like, you have, America, the biggest, the largest or the most sophisticated country on the land. Can we start to drive that narrative of circular economy? Drive the narrative of what we own as a country, what we're naturally endowed with as our country, opportunities that are inherent in our country. Communication is the engine oil of life, and we must be able to start, and we must start from the bottom up. What are our challenges? Attitudinal change. Like I said again, it's going to be difficult to shift the minds if we don't start to drive incentives. Incentive means money. Money comes from, regulated from a large sum. My governor had said it some time ago, and he always says it because he was a bank treasurer for the longest period of time, that there are corporates that have 3 times the size of the budget of Lagos State. It's time for us to start to infuse and inject capital into our systems, and it will have to start from the corporates. We have an unfriendly finance environment. As I had said before, we need to start to, increase the level of accessibility to funding, and it sits within our financial institutions. We do not have sufficient data, and we have, corporates, we have private sector, we have companies that have the ability, the capacity, the eggheads, the resources to be able to generate data that we can use to drive insights and to inform policies. We need to stop working in silos. If we have companies, if we have MSMEs who are accessible to some information, we need to start to aggregate this data. We need to start to aggregate our workings together so that we can have a holistic form of approach to these businesses, to these issues. And we need to improve the market operations. What are the opportunities? And these are the things that other countries have also, been able to do so that they can harness opportunities that are seated within the company, within the organization, the economy. We have tons of opportunities as well on the flip side. Today, I can proudly say that we have food hub, a logistics hub that has been established along the corridor of Ketu and Ekpe. It's seated on a 1.2 million square meter. And that facility stores contents for up to more than 1,500 trucks and is expected to meet the daily needs of tens of thousands of actors in the food value chain. Within that value chain, there are opportunities for jobs. There are opportunities for playing, delivery, logistics, e-commerce, transportation. How can we start to look at those areas and see how much we can proliferate that space? So, I can talk about all of the opportunities, but We're just going to go around to what we're looking at. What is our future like? What do we want to achieve? We have investor opportunities. We have job creation opportunities. We have value chains, that we can optimize to the fullest level. In my office, we have programs that are called Leave No One Behind, which is designed for people in incarceration, helping them to be able to have a life out of incarceration within the space of sustainability, educating them on how to be able to convert waste to wealth, educating them on how to be able to use their organic waste. We're working with communities right now to develop the sort of model that can help them regenerate wealth into something that is usable, biogas, electricity, solar powered electricity, right? We have a network, a business network that is solely designed, and we're beginning to grow in that space. We're having about 300 right now. And we're beginning to teach them business support, ability to be able to be investable. How do you create a structure that helps you to, stand for a sustainable period of time? How do you incorporate? How do you collaborate? How do you attract funding? How do you attract international partners and technical support? These are little things, but ultimately will be replicated across board to be able to help, because our desire is to be able to address businesses, address those at the bottom of the pyramid, help them to be able to grow. And the reason why it is comfortable for us is because we see the vision. We see the vision of where we are. We see the vision of what we hold. We see the vision of what we're endowed with. The global north is looking to our side, to Africa, for the wealth that is required for them to be able to, to be sustained. If we have access and we are blessed with hydro, we are blessed with wind, we are blessed with solar, it's time for us to start to introspectively think about it. It's time for us to start acting upon it. It's time for us to grow our country's GDP. It's time for us to work. Thank you very much.